Welcome to my World History Notes, where I read from the book that I wrote to teach homeschoolers world history, a Bible believer looks at world history. It's a survey of world history, not very deep, but definitely talks about, touches on things that you should study further if you're interested. Um, and you can find it on lulu.com, amazon.com, or the Bible Baptist Bookstore. So I'm going to begin. We're going to go back to England now. And proceeding to the period after the expectations of the end of the world were dashed when the end of the first millennium came and went, the Viking conquest of England under Canute was brutal, and although he is heralded by historians as a true statesman, he was also extremely cruel to the English at first. He did, however, marry the widow of the defeated English king, a woman who was the daughter of the Norman Duke Richard I, making an alliance with her brother, who was now the Duke. He accepted Catholic Christianity and built many churches, thereby ingratiating himself to Rome. He also managed to keep continuity in Anglo Saxon England by continuing cultural norms and legal systems. Finally, after his insecure, youthful rule, he became himself more and more English, and ultimately, he brought the Isles 12 years of peace. He began to appoint only the English to positions of authority. He was not only the King of England, but King of Denmark, and in 1028, he was King of Norway as well. To quote Durant, quote, he came in as a Dane and died as an Englishman. Culturally, the Danish invasion was a disaster, but the English recovered in architecture and literature that Alfred promoted returned after a time. Canute died at the young age of 40 in 1035. Before the last Danish king, Harthacnut, died, he summoned from Normandy the surviving son of Ethelred the Unready and Emma, and recognized his Anglo-Saxon stepbrother as the new king of England. What a twist, huh? But it gets better and more soap opera-like. The new king, Edward the Confessor, was as much a foreigner as any Dane, having lived at the Norman court since the age of 10. He brought his French language and priests to England, and his friends became high officials, religious and secular. He gave them royal grants, built Norman castles, and permitted them to show contempt for his English subjects, spurring on the Norman conquest decades before it actually happened by force of arms. There was only one Englishman who had the power to influence the Norman acting English king, and that was Earl Godwin, governor of Wessex, and first counselor to the Danish kings that preceded Edward. He became a powerful influence, and his daughter even married the king. Edward, though, had no children. Godwin's son, Tostig, married the daughter of the Count of Flanders, and Godwin's nephew, Sven, became ruler of Denmark, making Earl Godwin the most powerful man by alliances in northern Europe, even more powerful than the king himself. Out of envy, Edward's Norman friends convinced him to depose Godwin, who then fled to Flanders. His son Harold went to Ireland and raised an army against Edward the Confessor's Norman dominated government. English nobles, resentful of the haughty Normans, who were only one or two generations away from their barbaric Viking ancestors, asked Godwin to return and promised support to overthrow Edward's friends. Harold and his father Godwin, with their loyal troops, invaded England and ran off the Normans who surrounded the king. Godwin then died. Harold went on to conquer Wales for England and presented Edward the head of the Welsh chieftain Gruffydd. Edward, and it probably wasn't pronounced right because the Welsh names again don't sound like they're spelled. Edward had begun building Westminster Abbey in 1055, and he was laid to rest there in 1066. On January 6th, the assembled nobles elected Harold king. However, William, Duke of Normandy, illegitimate son of Robert I, also claimed the throne, claiming to have been promised it by Edward in 1051 as gratitude for 30 years of safe protection in Normandy. In spite of that promise, Edward also recommended Harold for king. William then claimed that as Harold had accepted knighthood from him, that he, William, was Harold's master and was promised support by Harold for his claim to the throne. William appealed to Pope Alexander II, who condemned and excommunicated Harold and granted the throne to William. Tostig, Harold's brother, raised a Viking army to invade from the north under the leadership of Harald Hardrada of Norway under a promise of the English throne. Even though Tostig, excuse me, even though Tostig was allied with William, Harold of England defeated Hardrada's army at the Battle of Stamford Bridge, but was defeated at the Battle of Hastings on October 14th. William, the Pope's man, was crowned king on Christmas Day. Harold, whose body had been badly mutilated, was buried in pieces in a church he had built at Waltham. Norman England, a combination of Celtic Britain, Anglo-Saxon, French, and Viking civilization, had officially begun. Now, moving to Central Europe, Otto the First, the Great, was the Charlemagne of Germany. 24 at his succession, he created a German church tied to the state and united a powerful state consisting of present-day Germany and Austria, loosely allied to the Pope. He also successfully defeated, the Magyar tribe who had invaded his realm. Responding to an appeal for aid from Pope John XII, he conquered Italy and was crowned Roman Emperor of the West by the Pope in 962. Otto II married the daughter of Romanus II, the Byzantine Empire, but died trying to conquer southern Italy. Otto III, starting in 996, attempted to unite all Christendom under a revived Roman Empire ruled from Rome. This figure in typology of the Antichrist to come at the end of the church age installed his own pope, Gebhard, but his early death canceled his dream. Henry II elevated the empire to its height, conquering territory and bringing a brief golden age to Central Europe. He appointed two popes himself. Henry IV fought with Pope Gregory VII, who had forbade the appointment of powerful bishops by laymen in a dispute called the investiture controversy that would last for centuries, and for Henry IV resulted in a 10-year war of diplomacy and violence that ended in his death in 1106. Next, we're going to talk about the Bible in the Dark Ages, and I certainly hope you will continue to watch. And no matter what you believe about my conclusions, as a Bible believer, I look at world history from a certain perspective, as you do too. I hope that you at least have an opinion that you've studied, formed from what you're studied about these events, and even more. It's just a survey. Thank you very much.